What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the college football playoff, the final four teams that made the playoff. So the committee has chosen Michigan number one, Washington number two, Texas number three, and Alabama number four. That was shocking. I did not expect Alabama to get in, me personally. I didn't expect Texas to get in, to be honest. My Final Four team was Michigan, Washington, Florida State, and maybe Georgia. That fourth spot would have been a tie out of Georgia and Texas. Even if I wouldn't have been mad if Texas would have got in, and I wouldn't have been mad if Georgia just stayed in. But I mean, those was my Final Four teams. Now, when Florida State just got booted, and they put Texas and Alabama in, now that shocked me. That just straight up shocked me. But we're going to take a deep dive into it. I'm going to try to hit it from every angle that I can. So before I start the video, before I start talking about it, I want to say I'm not a fan of none of these teams that are in the playoff or are ranked. I'm not a fan of none of them. My team isn't even ranked. I'm an Auburn fan. We are 6-6. We're not that good this year. So we're playing in some bowl game. I think in Tennessee. I don't know. We're playing Maryland. So I know I'm just sidetracking, but I just want to let that be known. I'm an Auburn fan. I roll with the SEC no matter what. But in this video, I'm taking my Auburn cap off. I'm taking my SEC cap off because before anything, I am a fan of college football. I am a fan of football first before I'm a fan of a team. I just love the sport of football, in particular, college football. So when the committee chose Texas and Alabama over Florida State, that I don't believe that should have happened. I mean, obviously, they made that decision based off of Jordan. No, I keep calling him Jordan Love. Forgive me if I say Jordan Love. It's Travis Jordan. No, Jordan Travis. They I don't get how in the world you base a team success off of one player. I mean, if Jordan Travis was this good, if him being injured determined the fate of a team of his team, the man give him. How is he not the front runner for the Heisman? How is he not going into the NFL draft as the number one quarterback coming out of this year's class if he decides to go? I don't know if he's a fourth year senior, fifth year senior. I don't know if he's a junior. I don't know. But how is he not a number one pick in this year's coming up draft? How is he not being talked about as a Heisman candidate, if not the person to win the Heisman? Because if he was this significant for his team's success, why isn't he being recognized for all these awards? I mean, I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it. So, and it was this thing on ESPN on Get Up, the show Get Up. Dan Orlovsky said one of the wildest things I've ever heard somebody say. He said that Florida State did not go undefeated and they did not win their conference. He said after the team that did that without Jordan Love, that was not this is not the team to go that went undefeated. This is not Jordan Love, Travis Jordan's team that went undefeated. His team went undefeated once he during that North Alabama game. I've never heard of something like that in my life. That is crazy. It just seems like people like it just some people are just sounding so delusional when they're trying to make their case how Florida State shouldn't be in. Oh, that well, they didn't play anybody. Okay, but tell the committee that when they had them ranked fourth. Oh well, they're in the ACC. Well, The ACC has quality opponents. They have Clemson, they have Louisville, they had North Carolina. I mean, they had quality opponents, and they had a better record against the against the SEC. So I don't know. I just don't understand these arguments. So I don't believe Alabama should have jumped Florida State because one, they have a loss. I understand they beat Georgia, the number one team in the country, but you just can't jump a one loss team over an undefeated Power Five team. That just cannot happen. In any world, any universe, in any sport, just because a one loss team beat the number one ranked team in whatever sport, you do not jump that team over an undefeated team who's also in the Power Five conference as you. I mean, I just don't understand how that make any sense. I just don't get it. And even Texas, I don't even think Texas should even jump them. But I mean, that's what the committee chose, so I don't understand. But a lot of people are saying, well, Florida State they struggled against a bad Louisville team. Well, this is a conference championship. Why was everybody expecting this to be a shootout? If this is a conference championship, it's supposed to be the best of the best in your conference. Me personally, I wasn't expecting a shootout. I was expecting a hard fought game. Just like when Alabama played Georgia, I was expecting a hard fought game. I wasn't expecting fireworks. So the committee came out and said the reason why they chose to boot Florida State and to put Alabama in because they just felt like that same Florida State team was not the same without their quarterback. But at the end of the day, they still found ways to win. And I feel like the committee had their minds made up. That Louisville game did not choose Florida State fate with a third string quarterback. Their fate was chosen, I think, the last two after Jordan Love got Travis. I mean, I keep saying Travis. When Travis Jordan got hurt in that North Alabama game, their fate was sold. The committee said, well, if Alabama goes into the conference championship and beat the number one team, they're in no matter what. No matter what. No and ifs or buts. And if Texas went out, they are a package deal. They're both getting in. So this decision was made 2.5 weeks ago. 2.5 weeks ago. And so as far as the committee, I didn't I mean who wasn't for a 14 playoff? I was for it. But I personally feel like the BCS system, it wasn't nothing wrong with it. I mean, yes, it had its flaws, but I didn't have a problem with it. But when they chose to have a 14 playoff, I was for that. But little did we know, having people in the room picking and choosing who gets in and who gets out, this was, bound to happen. This decision was gonna happen at some point, whether it was this year, whether it would be next year in the 12 team playoff, it didn't matter, it was gonna happen. So at the end of the day, I mean, I just feel bad for Florida State. Florida State deserved that fourth spot. It is so hard to go undefeated in any sport, especially football when it's a team sport. It is so hard to go undefeated. It doesn't matter what conference. But if you're a fan of like old Group of Five and Power Five, Florida State just did it in a Power Five conference. That's hard itself. Whether Alabama's a one loss, Texas a one loss, it's hard to go undefeated in a Power Five. So there shouldn't have been any question asked to get put Florida State in. I don't blame for Florida State fans to be, you know, mad, throwing things. I don't blame the players in that locker room for just feeling so bad. I mean, when that head coach took over, I mean, he took over a pretty average, mediocre Florida State team and he built them from the ground up. And To be there for 3 years and it's in this year, he gets them on this run. The players that he brought in from freshmen and they developed them, they put a system in, they implemented it. These kids, these seniors, these juniors, these freshmen, whatever class they are, they came in and they put the work in. They just battled their butts off in the off season and during the season. And for them and for the committee to say, well, your quarterback got hurt. It doesn't matter if you went undefeated. It doesn't matter that you kept finding ways to win with a backup and a third string quarterback. It doesn't matter that you won a conference championship with your third string quarterback to cap off an undefeated season. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, we're going to put another team in because we think they're better than you. We think if we put them on a field that they're going to be better than you. At the end of the day, I don't like the what ifs. I don't like how, quote unquote, if Alabama was put in because of their past history of them being in the SEC, past history of them winning championships. That's in the past. The past has nothing to do with Alabama now. It has nothing to do with them now. Until cleat touch field, until the cleat touch field, you truly don't know who would win. You don't know. So this whole thing of, oh, Florida State, if they got in, they were just gonna get mollywopped. They're gonna get blew out. Well, didn't we say this against TCU last year when they played Michigan? Before they played Michigan? We all thought Michigan was just gonna beat the crap out of them. But TCU ended up beating them. Regardless if they played Georgia. Georgia was gonna do that to anybody. Georgia, if Georgia made that championship game, they barely escaped from Ohio State. But if that was a Michigan team, their fate would have been the exact same thing because that Georgia team was just, there was some real deal dogs on that team, no matter what. But you don't know the what ifs. You just can't say what if. If the cleat isn't on the field, you don't know. So I just I just hate that Florida State just had to they just had to go through this. Florida State real deal got kicked out of playoffs because of a quote unquote injury. And people saying that, oh well, it's a good thing that we're going to a 12 playoff system. Well, who said the same thing won't happen then? Instead of the fourth team, this is going to happen to the 12th team. And those same people that booted an undefeated Florida State team out of the playoff are the same team that's going to be choosing who gets a home game, who gets a bye week, who has to travel on the road, and who gets the 12th spot in the playoffs. I mean, putting a 12-team playoff is just going to bring in more. It's going to bring in more people debating should their team get in. Why should their team get in? I mean, with this 12-team playoff, we may actually see an undefeated team go on the road to a one-loss team. We may actually see a undefeated team go on the road to a one or a two-loss team. And when the committee, this is a key point. This is a key point. So if the committee says Alabama is better than Texas, I mean, if Alabama is better than Florida State, then how in the world is Florida State ranked ahead of Georgia? Because last time I checked, that same Georgia team was favored over Alabama. So that right there should have told you, in the committee's eyes, they thought the what if and I think. In the committee's eyes, they said, quote unquote, I think Georgia is the number one team. I think Georgia is the number one team. But yet Alabama showed them, no, they weren't. No, they weren't. So we just can't keep saying these what ifs. But how in the world is Florida State ranked ahead of Georgia when they just basically said the quarterback position played a huge part in them not making the playoffs, then how are they ranked ahead of Georgia? Let that make sense. Let that make sense. In any world that doesn't make sense. Well, who says Oregon doesn't go in that playoff and beat somebody? I know I'm kind of biased in this situation, but I guarantee you, if you put Oregon and Michigan, I will bet my money against Oregon. I guarantee you, Oregon will give not Florida. They'll give Alabama a run for their money. That Oregon team will give an Alabama team a run for their money. But at the end of the day, we don't know. That's just my opinion. Until Cleat touch field, I won't know. It's just my opinion. So, and another funny thing is, not only did Florida State get screwed in this, SMU got screwed in this because, and if y'all go back and watch the I think his name is Boo something, Boo Corrigan or whatever, when he came out, when he said that, quote unquote, Florida State lost their quarterback, they were not the same team on the field, but they kept finding a way to win. Florida State kept finding ways to win with a backup and a third string. When Reese Davis asked the committee about how come SMU didn't get to play Oregon in a bowl game, but Liberty did. Liberty is undefeated. SMU lost 2 games. Both are conference champions, but SMU scheduled 2 Power 5 opponents. They scheduled Oklahoma, which they lost 28-10, and they scheduled TCU, which they beat TCU. But when Reese Davis asked them, then can you justify how did SMU not get in that New Year's Six bowl game against Oregon, but Liberty did? Now this is something that Florida State fans, if you, Florida State fans listen to this, Boo Corrigan or Kerrigan, whatever his name, he said, well, they Liberty kept finding a way to win. They kept finding ways to win. Well, why doesn't that apply to Florida State? And so, with that being said, me personally, I feel like the way from the ranking from 1 to 25, everybody is ranked differently in each category in the top 25. 1 through 6 is not ranked in just the same like 7 through 10. 7 through 10 is not ranked the same as 10 through like 15, 16, 17. And 17 isn't ranked, and 11 through 15, 16, 17 isn't ranked the same as 19 through 25. Everybody are put in categories, and they're all not ranked the same. Everybody's ranked differently. So, and another thing, I want to make another point in Florida State. Everybody's bashing them on they haven't played anybody. They haven't played this person. They haven't played that person. Oh, well, the Florida team that they beat was average. Well, the LSU team that they beat was real average. Well, at the end of the day, Alabama they didn't beat the best opponents. I mean, yes, they beat quality opponents, but they also struggled against opponents. Sorry opponents. So in I think it was like week 3 or 4, Alabama played USF. I think it was the third game of the season. They was on the road and they had to play USF. They won 17-3. Technically they won, it was 10-3 with 33 seconds to go in the game. It was 10-3, but they scored late and put it to 17-3. USF is 6-6. Arkansas, they almost they won 24-21 against an Arkansas team at home. They beat an Arkansas team by 3 points. And that Arkansas team was they ended the season 4-8. Okay? And what this game, the Iron Bowl, is the main one that kind of left a lot of like people questioning why did they keep Florida State out and put Alabama in. That Iron Bowl game is the main one that they're really circling. Auburn, my team, Auburn went 6-6. 6-6. But the week before the Iron Bowl, we lost to New Mexico State. Even though New Mexico State, they went to their conference championship game, they lost. I think, did they lose to Liberty? I don't know who they play. I think it was Liberty. I'm not sure. But they lost to some. I think it was Liberty. Yeah, they played Liberty in their conference championship game. But they lost to New Mexico State, 31-10 at home. And then the next week, Alabama came to town, and Alabama needed a miracle to beat a very sub-average, below average Auburn team. Auburn had their numbers the entire game, but they had to have a miracle by Jalen Milroe, and they won the game. So that loss against Texas means nothing. Them struggling against USF doesn't mean nothing. Them winning by 3 points against Arkansas that's 4-8 right now, and who also lost to BYU 38-31. That means nothing. And losing to Auburn, well, beating Auburn on a miracle play doesn't mean nothing. As long as they beat Georgia, they were in regardless. I don't understand that. And by the way, when Alabama beat Georgia, the committee made it seem like Alabama just blew Georgia out. They had a convincing lead in the first half, but Georgia got that back. And they won by 3 points. That game could have easily been different if Georgia didn't fumble the ball and that kicker didn't miss that field goal, because the game would have been different. And also, if the committee is doing an eye test, a lot of Georgia key players was playing injured. They were playing like on 40%. Ladd McConkey, Bowser. And then Georgia's left tackle, he, little did we know, he had tightrope ankle surgery, just like Brock Browser did. But their guys was hurt. Their guys was injured. And they almost still beat the number 8 team in Alabama. But the committee, I've never seen the number one ranked team who only lost by 3 points fall that far down. I've never seen it. Because if we go back in time, the same Alabama team that played Georgia in the conference championship with Bryce Young, I think he was in like his second year, they beat the doors off of Georgia. But yet, that same Georgia team only fell like 3 spots. They fell 4th. They beat them. Alabama beat them worse then than they did now. But how did they fall that far? I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I side with Florida State. Florida State deserved to be in the playoff. Undefeated in the story. In the story. Alabama has 1 loss. Texas has 1 loss. Texas blew out I think Oklahoma State was like ranked 21st in the country, and they blew them out. But everybody giving Florida State a hard time because they struggled with Louisville, but that same Louisville team beat a Notre Dame team, and it was a conference game. So if Florida State is getting so much backlash for winning by 10 points against a Louisville team that people said, oh, well, Louisville isn't that good. Well, the committee thought they were better because at one point before Louisville lost to Kentucky, they was ranked 10th in the nation. 10th in the nation. So obviously they was better than what we thought because the committee had them ranked that high. And so we're giving Florida State, people are giving Florida State a hard time for struggling against Louisville, but Alabama only beat Georgia by 10 points. So where are we getting here? Where are we going with? What are we doing? And one thing I will say, when When the committee said that about Jordan Travis, I will say this: when they said when they said that about Jordan Travis and him being injured was a huge determining factor on whether they should be in the playoffs or not. That right there, I think that's going to change the trajectory of college football and how we and what we see as far as like players on the field. They just opened up a Pandora box of things to come. So if you're if you're Clemson, if you're Florida State next year, if you're Oregon, if you're Washington, if you're any of these teams, maybe any team that didn't make the playoff, if you're on the verge of being undefeated and you got a cupcake game like a quote unquote New Mexico State, or you're playing a very weak conference opponent, a coach is going to go into that mindset. Oh, well, Florida State got screwed because they lost their quarterback and the committee just booted them out. If you're a head coach, you're having them thoughts in your head. You're having conversations with your guys and saying, well, if you Florida State, we're not going to play you against Wake Forest. We're not going to risk injury for you to get hurt against Wake Forest because we're on a championship run. Or if you're Clemson, we're not going to play you against Charleston Southern because we're on a championship run. If you're Alabama, you look Miro in the eyes and you tell him, we're not going to play you against Vanderbilt. We're not going to play you against Mississippi State. We're only going to let you play in the big games that are going to matter to the committee. And so we're just opening up a big Pandora box where we are sitting guys in college football games. We're bringing the mindset of the NBA players to college because they're already getting NIL deals. What's for them to sit and just, okay, coach, I'm just gonna chill. I'm not gonna let this affect the season. I'm not gonna let this affect the season. What is stopping them from doing that right now from the decision that the committee made? That's my opinion. That is just my opinion. It's gonna happen. It is going to happen. That is gonna be a conversation next year is going to happen in every locker room before every game. Do we become the next Florida State if we play our guy in meaningless reps against teams that we're just clearly just gonna beat no matter what? Because Florida State was gonna beat North Alabama probably like freaking 60 points, 40, 50, 60 points. Who knows? Who knows? But at the end of the day, I do want to say this. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. The big question is did the committee get it right? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Because the committee, what they did was they played the I think and we guess. We think, I think, and they had a criteria of how to choose the teams. Whether you think that they got it right, whether you think they didn't get it right. Nobody's wrong because the people who think they got it right, they can justify it. For the people who said they got it wrong, they can justify it. They Nobody's wrong in this. If you think Florida State deserved the shot in the playoffs, you're not wrong. If you think they shouldn't and you think Alabama deserved that fourth spot, you're not wrong. Nobody's wrong. Nobody's wrong. But one thing you cannot sit there and justify that Florida State did not earn the right because they're undefeated. That rings way louder than a one-loss team. Because I'm telling you, that decision that they made, it just opened up a whole Pandora box of things to come. It's going to happen. It is going to happen. I promise you it's going to happen. Because, prime example, the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, Carson Wentz is the reason why they made the playoffs. But he got hurt. He tore his ACL diving into the end zone for a touchdown. Nick Foles had to take over. Nick Foles took the team to the Super Bowl, and they won it all with him. What if there was a committee in the NFL and not Nick Foles, Carson Wentz got hurt, and they looked all them players in the NFL in the Philadelphia Eagles locker room? That championship run does not happen. That does not happen if they sit there and tell the Eagles, y'all aren't getting in the playoffs because Carson Wentz got hurt, and y'all are not the same team. Even though y'all are winning games, y'all are not the same team offensively. And we think, quote unquote, we think you guys cannot compete with the championship caliber level of teams we're gonna put in. That championship run doesn't happen. That Super Bowl doesn't happen. Nick Foles doesn't get the opportunity to take the team to the championship. Same applies for college football. I understand these are two different levels of football, but the same thing applies. If you take the opportunity away from Florida State, which they did, you don't know if Florida State, the backup, goes in and just a switch just flips in his head and he becomes the next Jordan Travis. He becomes the next great Florida State quarterback that takes over that program and takes them to another championship at some point or conference championship. You don't know that because you're basing it off of who's on your roster. That is wrong. That is not right. And that just tarnished everything we know about college football and football as a whole. Wins and losses does not matter anymore. It's all about what conference you're in and who's on your roster and which conference has the biggest and deepest pockets. That's all it's coming down to. Another example, when Alabama was in the championship game playing Texas years ago, I think it was like 2009, 2008, 2009, injuries are a part of the game. I think it was like the second play of the game, Colt McCoy got injured by Marcel Darius on a tackle. The second play of the game, he hurt his shoulder, couldn't come back in. A freshman had to take over in the championship game. Yeah, Alabama got to a convincing lead, but guess what? The freshman was struggling, but he started clicking late in the game. He almost came back and made it a game against a Alabama team that was undefeated, who beat a Florida team in the conference championship. I can't remember the score of that game, but I watched it. And that freshman grew up before our eyes in a national championship and almost came back on an Alabama team. So we just took that opportunity from Florida State, from what they accomplished as a team, and we took an opportunity to see, can a backup quarterback grow up before our eyes because they earned the right. They earned the right to play Michigan. Matter of fact, they earned the right to play Washington, whoever they was matched up against. They earned the right to, because whether Alabama beats the number one team, Texas beat the number 21 ranked team, undefeated reigns louder than anything, no matter what. So that's all I got for you guys in the video today. Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Did I make good points? Did I make bad points? Was anything I just said was just crazy and off the wall? Let me know in the comment section. Let me know you guys' thought and opinion. Let me know, did you think the committee get it right? Did you think the committee got it wrong? Did you think Florida State should have been in? Did you think Florida State should have been out? Do you think Texas and Alabama should have been in or been out? Just vent in the comment section. Whether what side you're on, it doesn't matter. Just comment your opinion. Let's open it up for discussion. It's all open for anybody. So thank you guys for watching the video. Make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll see y'all in the next video.